The sun was slowly disappearing behind the tall hills that surrounded Jesse Thompson's ranch. The golden light of evening turned the sky into a mix of orange and purple, and a gentle wind rustled through the dry grass of the plains. Jesse, a tall, rugged cowboy with sun-tanned skin and calloused hands, had spent the entire day tending to his cattle. His horse, Dusty, plodded wearily beside him as he rode back toward the small wooden cabin that served as his home. The ranch was far from the nearest town. The silence of the plains was both comforting and lonely. Most days, Jesse enjoyed the quiet, the chance to work with his animals, and the freedom that came with living far from crowds. But on this evening, something felt different. There was a strange stillness in the air, heavier than usual. Jesse shook his head and brushed it off. Perhaps it was just his imagination after a long, tiring day. As he approached the barn, Jesse noticed movement near the hayloft. At first, he thought it might be one of his cows, or maybe a stray dog. But as he got closer, he realized the movements were too deliberate, too careful to belong to an animal. He slowed Dusty to a stop and squinted through the dimming light. There, huddled among the hay bales, were two figures, a very old woman and a small girl. Their clothes were torn and dirty, their faces streaked with dust, and their eyes were wide with fear. Jesse felt a mixture of shock and suspicion. "Who's there?" he called out, trying to keep his voice calm. The two figures froze, and the little girl clutched the old woman's hand tightly. Jesse noticed the girl's face was pale, and her lips cracked from thirst. The old woman's eyes, though tired and worn, held a quiet strength that made Jesse pause. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jesse's hand rested on the handle of the rope he usually used with his cattle, not wanting to scare them further. Slowly, he dismounted and walked toward the barn door. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The old woman's voice was trembling, but she answered in a quiet whisper. "Please, don't send us away. We have nowhere else to go." Jesse studied her closely. Her skin was weathered and darkened from years under the sun, and her hair was streaked with gray. The little girl's brown eyes were large and filled with fear. But there was something else too, trust, fragile as it was, shining through the fear. Jesse realized that they were not here to cause trouble. They were simply lost, hungry, and afraid. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice gentler now. "And why are you hiding in my barn?" "My name is Kaya," the old woman replied. "This is my daughter Lilu, our home. It's gone. We had nowhere else to go." Jesse felt a pang of sympathy. He had heard stories of families struggling in the wilderness, of people losing everything to disease, storms, or violence. But seeing it in front of him, so real and human, struck a chord deep inside him. "All right," he said carefully. "You can stay here tonight, but you have to promise not to wander around. It's dangerous." Kaya nodded quickly, relief washing over her face. Lilu hugged her mother's waist tightly, as if afraid the cowboy might change his mind. Jesse motioned for them to sit on some clean hay he had cleared earlier. He went back to the cabin and brought a tin cup of water and a few biscuits. The little girl drank quickly, barely stopping to breathe. "You must be hungry too," Jesse said, handing Kaya some biscuits. The old woman accepted them politely, her hands shaking slightly. "We are," she admitted. "We haven't eaten for 2 days." Jesse's stomach tightened. He had always been used to scarcity on the ranch, but he had never gone without food for days. He realized that Kaya and Lilu were in much worse shape than he had imagined as the sun dipped below the horizon. The barn grew colder. Jesse found some extra blankets and spread them on the hay, making a small corner where Kaya and Lilu could rest. The little girl lay down immediately, exhausted, while Kaya stayed sitting, staring at the fading light through the barn door. Jesse could see the worry etched into her face, a worry that was more than just hunger. It was the worry of someone who had lost everything. "I don't know how we will survive," Kaya whispered. "Everything is gone. Our village, our home, our friends. All gone." Jesse knelt beside her, unsure of what to say. Words felt inadequate, but he wanted to reassure her in some way. "You're safe here," he said finally. "I won't let anything happen to you tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do." For a while, the barn was silent, except for the soft sound of the wind and the faint rustle of hay. Jesse sat near the doorway, keeping watch, making sure no harm came to them. He thought about how unpredictable life could be. One moment, he was just another cowboy tending his cattle, and the next, he was a protector of strangers he had never met. As darkness settled in, the stars began to appear one by one in the wide open sky. Lilu stirred and looked up at the roof of the barn, pointing. "Mommy, stars?" she said softly. Kaya smiled faintly, the first warmth Jesse had seen from her since he found them. It was a small, fragile moment of hope, but it reminded him that even in the hardest times, life had ways of shining through. Jesse stayed awake that night. Listening to the quiet breathing of the two newcomers, he thought about the day that had brought them here and the uncertainty of what tomorrow might bring. But for now, in that small barn on the edge of the plains, there was a fragile peace. For the first time that evening, Jesse felt a sense of purpose beyond the routines of ranch life. He realized that sometimes helping someone in need was the most important work a person could do. As the first light of dawn began to touch the hills, Jesse knew that life at the ranch would never be quite the same. The old woman and her daughter had arrived like a storm, sudden and unexpected. But they had also brought something else, a chance for connection, a test of courage, and perhaps a new beginning. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky with colors of hope. And Jesse made a silent promise to himself. No matter what challenges came next, he would not turn them away. He had found two lost souls hiding in his barn, and somehow he knew that their story and his were now intertwined. The morning sun spilled its golden light across Jesse Thompson's ranch, warming the barn where Kaya and Lilu had spent a quiet night. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of hay and earth. Jesse had been up before dawn, tending to his cattle, but he kept one eye on the barn, wondering how the two strangers were adjusting to this new, unfamiliar place. Inside the barn, Kaya stirred first, pulling the thin blanket closer around her shoulders. She looked tired but grateful for the warmth and safety the barn had offered. Beside her, Lilu lay curled up, her small chest rising and falling in gentle rhythm. For the first time in days, the little girl was able to sleep peacefully. Kaya brushed a stray lock of hair from her daughter's face and sighed. She had survived so much, but the uncertainty of the future weighed heavily on her. Jesse entered the barn quietly, carrying a small basket of fresh bread, cheese, and water. He wanted to give them breakfast without frightening them, so he spoke gently. "Good morning," he said. "I brought some food for you. Eat while it's warm." Kaya's eyes softened. She had been wary of Jesse, a stranger with authority and power. But his kindness and careful words had begun to earn her trust. She nodded, smiling faintly. "Thank you," she said. Lilu stirred awake, blinking at the bright sunlight. When she saw Jesse, she hesitated for a moment, but then smiled shyly. Clearly hungry and eager for the food, as they ate, Jesse kept the conversation simple, asking gentle questions. "Where is your home?" he asked. "What happened to your village?" Kaya swallowed slowly, gathering her thoughts. "Our home. It was small, near the river. We were a peaceful people," she said. "But one night, raiders came. They took everything. We had to run." Her voice wavered, but she continued. "We walked for days, hiding wherever we could, until we found this place. Your barn. It was the first safe place we've seen." Jesse nodded silently, listening with a mixture of sadness and respect. He could imagine the fear and exhaustion they had endured. He had faced hardships on the ranch, but nothing like losing a home and the people you care about. He realized that survival often depended not just on strength, but on trust, hope, and the kindness of strangers. "Tomorrow, we'll find a way to get you some proper food and clothing," Jesse said, trying to reassure them. "But for today, you need rest, and maybe a chance to wash up a little." He motioned toward the small water barrel in the corner of the barn. "You can use that. I'll make sure no one disturbs you." Kaya hesitated, glancing at her daughter. "I don't want to impose," she said softly. "You're not imposing," Jesse replied firmly. "You've been through a lot. This is just a place to catch your breath. That's all. Kaya finally nodded. She helped Lilu wash her face, using a cloth and the cool water Jesse had provided. The little girl's laughter, soft and hesitant at first, began to fill the barn. Jesse smiled quietly from a corner, feeling a warmth he had not expected. These small moments of normalcy were precious, fragile, and worth protecting. After breakfast, Jesse led them outside to the yard. The sun was higher now, and the ranch was alive with sounds, the lowing of cattle, the clatter of horseshoes on wooden posts, and the rustle of the wind through the tall grass. Jesse showed them the small garden he maintained where tomatoes, beans, and herbs grew. "You can help me here if you want," he said. "It's not much, but it keeps the hands busy and the stomachs fed." Kaya looked at the neat rows of plants, unsure how to respond. But Lilu's eyes sparkled. She ran to the garden, touching the leaves and sniffing the herbs. "I want to help," she said eagerly. Kaya laughed softly, the first full laugh Jesse had heard from her. It was a sound filled with relief and small hope. As the morning passed, the silence between them slowly broke. Kaya began sharing stories of her people, of the traditions they followed, the songs they sang, and the lessons she had learned from her elders. Jesse listened attentively, fascinated by the tales of survival, courage, and respect for nature. For the first time, he felt connected not just to them, but to a world he had never known. "You know," Jesse said, wiping sweat from his forehead, "I've never met people like you. Your stories, they're amazing. You've survived so much." Kaya looked down, a faint blush on her cheeks. "We do what we must," she replied simply. "Life can be cruel, but it also gives small moments of kindness. That is what keeps us going." Jesse nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. On the ranch, life was also full of hardships, storms, illness, but the small victories, the simple acts of care, made it all worthwhile. And now, he was part of this fragile web of trust, caring for 2 lives that had nearly been lost to despair. By afternoon, Jesse realized he had formed an unexpected bond with Kaya and Lilu. He had always considered himself a solitary man, comfortable in his routines, relying only on his own skills, but now he felt something different: responsibility. Yes, but also a sense of pride in helping them survive. It was a strange feeling, both rewarding and humbling. As the day went on, Jesse taught Lilu small tasks around the ranch. She learned how to gather eggs, carry water carefully without spilling, and even feed the calves. Each success brought a smile to her face, and Kaya watched with quiet pride. Jesse realized that these small acts, though ordinary to him, were monumental for a girl who had seen so much loss. The sun began to set again, casting long shadows across the barn and the yard. Jesse prepared a simple dinner and invited Kaya and Lilu to eat with him. Conversation flowed more freely now, laughter mingling with the sounds of the wind and animals. It was a simple evening, yet it held a magic that only comes when strangers become a temporary family, bound by trust and mutual care. Later, as darkness fell, Jesse helped them settle in the barn once more. Lilu lay down with a small smile, clutching a blanket Jesse had given her. Kaya sat beside her, gazing at the stars that peeked through the barn roof. "Thank you, Jesse," she whispered. "You don't know how much this means to us." Jesse shrugged modestly, though a warmth spread through him he could not deny. "I think I do," he said. "I've learned that helping someone in need can be the most important thing we do in life." That night, Jesse sat outside the barn, staring at the endless sky above the plains. He thought about the day, about the stories Kaya had told, and about the bond forming between him and the 2 strangers he had found hiding in his barn. For the first time, he realized that life could change in an instant, and that sometimes, the unexpected moments, meeting someone new, protecting the helpless, offering kindness, were what gave life meaning. He watched the stars twinkle and made a quiet promise. He would do everything he could to keep Kaya and Lilu safe, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Tomorrow would bring new obstacles, new decisions, and new dangers, but tonight there was peace. And in that peace, Jesse knew he had found something rare and valuable: hope. The morning sun rose slowly over the wide, open plains, casting long shadows from the barn and the cabin on Jesse Thompson's ranch. Jesse was already awake, as usual, moving quietly around the yard. He had become accustomed to the presence of Kaya and Lilu, though he still marveled at how quickly their lives had changed. The barn that had once only held hay and tools now felt more alive, filled with whispers, laughter, and cautious trust. Inside the barn, Kaya and Lilu were stirring from their sleep. The blankets Jesse had provided had kept them warm through the night, and Lilu's small hands were already reaching for the wooden bucket of water Jesse had placed nearby. Kaya looked out at the morning light streaming in through the cracks of the barn walls. For the first time in many weeks, she allowed herself a small smile. Their life was uncertain, yes, but for now, they were safe. Jesse entered the barn, carrying a basket filled with fresh bread, milk, and fruit from his small garden. He placed it gently on the floor and smiled. "Good morning, eat well. We've got a busy day ahead." Lilu's eyes lit up at the sight of food, and she ran toward the basket eagerly. Kaya reached for the bread, but Jesse stopped her for a moment. "Take your time," he said kindly. "No rush, and eat as much as you need. Today I want to show you how things work around here. You'll need to know if you're going to stay safe and warm." Kaya nodded silently, sensing the importance of his words. She had lived her life surviving in the wilderness, but this ranch world was new and strange to her. Jesse, patient and calm, began showing them how to care for the animals. He led them to the cows first, explaining how to check for sickness and feed them properly. Lilu tried to mimic his movements, holding the feed bucket carefully, while Kaya observed, absorbing every instruction with a keen mind. "You are quick learners," Jesse remarked. "That will help a lot. Life on the ranch isn't easy, but it can be rewarding." For the rest of the morning, they moved from task to task. Kaya learned to mend fences, a skill she never imagined needing, while Lilu helped gather eggs from the small chicken coop. Jesse watched them work with a mixture of admiration and concern. It was exhausting work, but he could see the pride in their eyes each time they completed a task. The barn, once a place of fear and hiding, had become a school of survival and learning. At midday, Jesse took a break and led Kaya to a small stream that ran along the edge of the property. The water was clear and cold, a perfect place to wash clothes and refill water bottles. "You'll need to stay clean, especially if you're helping me with the animals," he said. "It's part of living safely here," Kaya nodded, carrying a bundle of clothes toward the stream. She washed them carefully while Lilu played near the water, throwing small stones and giggling as they skipped across the surface. Jesse stood nearby, scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. The plains were peaceful, but he knew that safety was never guaranteed. After returning to the barn, Jesse prepared a simple lunch for all three of them. They ate together, the silence between bites filled with unspoken gratitude. Kaya finally spoke, sharing small details about her past life. She spoke of her village by the river, the people she had loved, and the traditions she had hoped to pass on to Lilu. Jesse listened quietly. "Impressed by her strength and resilience. You have been through so much," he said softly. "I can't imagine losing everything like that. But you're strong, Kaya, and Lilu. She's lucky to have you." Kaya smiled faintly, touched by his words. "We do what we must," she replied. "And we are grateful to you, Jesse, for letting us stay, for teaching us, for protecting us." The afternoon was filled with more lessons and chores. Jesse taught them how to chop wood safely, carry water without spilling, and even light a small fire for warmth at night. He showed Lilu how to recognize the tracks of animals in the mud and how to follow them. Carefully, a skill that might one day keep her safe. The little girl's curiosity and energy impressed him, and he found himself enjoying the teaching more than he expected. By late afternoon, the work was done, and the barn was tidy. Kaya and Lilu had learned a lot in just one day, and their confidence had grown. Jesse looked at them with a sense of pride. "You've done well," he said. "Not everyone can learn so quickly, especially after everything you've been through." Kaya's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Jesse. You've given us a chance to survive. More than that, you've shown us kindness. That means more than anything." The sun began to set. Jesse prepared dinner, and for the first time, the barn felt like home. The little fire in the corner flickered warmly, casting shadows on the hay walls. Lilu sat on a bale of hay, eating her food happily, while Kaya quietly thanked Jesse for the meal. The air was filled with the soft sounds of contentment, a stark contrast to the fear and exhaustion of the night they had first arrived. After dinner, Jesse handed them blankets once more and helped them settle in for the night. Lilu yawned widely, snuggling close to her mother. Kaya looked at Jesse with a mixture of respect and trust. "I don't know how to thank you enough," she said softly. "You don't have to thank me," Jesse replied. "Just take care of each other and stay safe. That's enough." As Jesse stepped outside the barn, he looked up at the sky. The stars were bright, and the moon cast a gentle light across the plains. He thought about the day, how much they had learned, how much they had survived, and how much courage they had shown. Kaya and Lilu had come to him as strangers, frightened and hungry, and now they were slowly becoming part of the ranch, part of his life. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Life on the plains was never easy, and the presence of strangers could bring suspicion or trouble from others in the nearby town. But for now, he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had done something important, something meaningful. He had given shelter, taught survival, and created a place where hope could grow as he walked back to the cabin. Jesse felt the weight of responsibility, but also a deep sense of purpose. The barn, once a quiet place for hay and animals, had become a sanctuary. Kaya and Lilu had found safety, and he had found something unexpected too, a bond of trust, a sense of family, and the quiet knowledge that helping others could change a life, perhaps even more than one. Before going to bed, Jesse made one last check on the barn. Kaya was lying close to Lilu, singing softly in a gentle voice that spoke of comfort and resilience. The little girl's eyes closed slowly, and Jesse smiled quietly. For tonight at least, they were safe, warm, and fed, and that was enough to keep hope alive. Tomorrow, he thought, they would face new tasks, new lessons, and perhaps new challenges. But together, they would survive. Together, they would continue to grow stronger. And in that quiet moment, Jesse felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. Fulfillment that came not from wealth, not from possessions, but from the simple act of protecting and teaching two lives that had nearly been lost to the world. The stars shone above, and Jesse knew that as long as he watched over them, Kaya and Lilu had a chance to start over. And maybe, just maybe, their presence would teach him even more about life, courage, and the quiet strength of hope. The next morning, Jesse Thompson awoke to a soft breeze carrying the smell of dry grass and morning dew. He stretched and glanced toward the barn, where Kaya and Lilu were already awake. The little girl's laughter drifted through the air as she played near the hay. While Kaya tended to the small chores Jesse had assigned, everything seemed peaceful. But Jesse's experience on the ranch had taught him to remain cautious. The plains were wide and open, yet danger often arrived in unexpected ways. He had seen strangers arrive in search of work, supplies, or mischief. And sometimes even a small misunderstanding could turn into a serious problem. He knew that protecting Kaya and Lilu meant more than teaching them chores and survival. It meant preparing for the world outside the safety of the barn. That morning, Jesse took them to the garden first, as usual, but noticed something unusual. The fence at the edge of the property had a small gap. The wood was slightly broken, and footprints led toward the nearby dirt road. Jesse's heart tightened. "Stay here," he said softly to Kaya and Lilu. "Lock the barn doors and don't come out until I call you." Kaya's eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing her face. "Is it dangerous?" she asked. Jesse shook his head, though his jaw tightened. "Maybe, but we'll handle it. Just stay safe." He grabbed his hat and coat and followed the footprints toward the road. As he approached, he saw 3 men on horseback, riding slowly and talking in low voices. Their clothes were worn, and their faces were hard, as if they were used to taking what they wanted. Jesse recognized immediately that they were not simple travelers. They were trouble. "Hello there," Jesse called as he stepped into view, trying to appear calm and confident. "This is private property." "Who are you, and what do you want?" The men exchanged glances. One of them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, smiled coldly. "We're just passing through," he said. "But maybe you can spare a little food? Or some supplies. We're hungry." Jesse knew better. Strangers like this rarely left empty-handed. He could not risk them discovering Kaya and Lilu. "I don't have much," he said carefully, keeping his hands visible. "But what I do have is for my family. You need to move along." The tall man's smile disappeared. "That's not what we hear," he said. "Somebody saw 2 women hiding near your barn. We thought maybe you were keeping them. Well, it doesn't matter. We want what you have." Jesse felt a surge of anger, but he remained calm. He had faced difficult men before, and he knew showing fear could invite trouble. "You won't get anything," he said firmly. "Leave now, or I'll call the sheriff." The men laughed, but Jesse could see the uncertainty in their eyes. He slowly reached for a small rifle he kept nearby, not to threaten, but to show he was serious. The tall man's hand hovered over the reins of his horse, and Jesse knew a confrontation could turn dangerous quickly. "Wait," Kaya's voice suddenly called from behind him. She had followed quietly, refusing to hide out of fear. Lilu clung to her mother, wide-eyed. Jesse's stomach tightened. He could not allow the girls to see violence, yet he could not turn away. He raised a hand. "Stay back," he said, but Kaya shook her head. "No, Jesse, we're not hiding anymore. We're part of this now. We can help." Jesse glanced at her, amazed by her courage. "You're brave," he said softly, "but you must stay safe. Promise me." Kaya nodded, though her expression was firm. "We promise. But we are not running away." The men on horseback shifted uneasily. They had not expected resistance, especially from someone who seemed alone. Jesse knew he had to think quickly. The safety of Kaya and Liluand, his own land, depended on cleverness, not brute strength. "Listen," Jesse said calmly. "You want food? You'll have to earn it. I'll give you work if you're willing. Otherwise, leave my property and don't come back." The tall man scowled. "Work for a little bread? That's a joke. You think we'll waste our time for scraps?" Jesse's voice remained steady. "Yes, and if you refuse, the sheriff will be here soon. You can choose wisely." The men hesitated. They had not expected resistance, and certainly not an offer to work. They were used to taking what they wanted, but Jesse's calm courage made them unsure. After a tense moment, the scarred man spat on the ground. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll work for food, but this isn't over." Jesse nodded, keeping his rifle nearby but lowered. "It's never over for anyone who chooses to be fair," he said. "Now follow me." Back at the barn, Kaya and Lilu had cleaned and tidied the area. Lilu's small hands smoothed the hay nervously, while Kaya glanced at Jesse with silent worry. He smiled reassuringly. "They'll help with chores. No harm will come to you. Trust me." The men dismounted reluctantly and began helping with simple tasks, stacking firewood, repairing fences, and feeding the animals. Jesse supervised closely, ensuring they did not wander near the barn. His heart still pounded, but he felt a strange satisfaction. By keeping calm and showing authority, he had turned potential danger into manageable work. Kaya watched quietly, impressed by Jesse's skill. "You didn't even raise your voice," she whispered to him. Jesse shook his head. "Anger never solves things," he replied. "Courage and patience do. And sometimes a bit of clever thinking." As the day went on, the men grew more respectful, if reluctantly so. They completed their tasks without complaint, and Jesse made sure they could not cause trouble near the barn. Kaya and Lilu worked alongside him when possible, learning how to protect themselves and the property in subtle ways, watching the men's movements, noting who did what, and understanding that safety often required alertness more than strength. By evening, the men had earned enough food for themselves, and Jesse escorted them off the property with a clear warning. "Do not come back," he said firmly. "If you do, the consequences will be yours alone." The scarred man glared but did not reply. They mounted their horses and rode away, leaving the ranch in peace once more. Jesse watched them go, breathing a sigh of relief. He returned to the barn, where Kaya and Lilu awaited anxiously. You were brave, he said quietly. And you both did well. Kaya nodded, her expression serious. We are learning, she said. Not just chores, but how to survive, how to protect each other. Jesse smiled, feeling proud. He knew the danger of the plains would not disappear, but for tonight they had one. They had faced a threat and survived together, stronger and more united than before. As darkness fell, the barn glowed with warmth. The little fire burned gently and Kaya tucked Lilu in carefully. Jesse sat outside for a moment, looking at the stars. The world could be harsh, but courage, trust, and careful thinking could turn fear into survival. And that, he realized, was the most important lesson of all. The following morning, the sun rose gently over the plains, casting a golden light across Jesse Thompson's ranch. Birds sang, and the breeze carried the soft scent of wildflowers and fresh grass. After the tense events of the previous day, the ranch felt peaceful once again. Kaya and Lilu were awake early, as usual, eager to help with the morning chores. Jesse watched them quietly from the porch, a warm smile on his face. He had come to admire Kaya's calm determination and Lilu's cheerful energy. Over the past days, they had grown stronger, braver, and more confident. The barn, once a place of fear and hiding, had transformed into a home filled with life, learning, and hope. Morning, Jesse. Lilu called, waving a small bundle of freshly gathered eggs. Kaya carried a basket of vegetables from the garden, her movements careful but confident. Good morning, girls, Jesse said warmly. Looks like we have a busy day ahead. Let's start with the animals, and then I have something special to show you. Kaya and Lilu nodded eagerly. Together, they went through the usual morning routines, feeding the chickens, checking on the cows, and gathering hay. Jesse watched them closely, noting how much they had learned in such a short time. Kaya moved with careful precision while Lilu laughed and sang as she worked. Her little hands steady despite her size. After the chores, Jesse led them to a small clearing near the edge of the property. He had been working on a project secretly for the past few days, a small wooden cabin. It was simple, but sturdy, with a warm roof, a fireplace, and enough space for Kaya and Lilu to live comfortably. This is for you, Jesse said, stepping back. A place of your own, where you can feel safe and start fresh. Kaya's eyes widened in surprise. She looked at Jesse, then at Lilu, whose excitement was impossible to hide. Jesse, this is amazing, Kaya said softly. How can we ever thank you? You don't need to, Jesse replied with a smile. Just take care of it and take care of each other. That's thanks enough. The girls spent the rest of the day moving into the cabin. Jesse helped them carry baskets, set up blankets, and arrange the small kitchen area. Lilu giggled as she placed small jars on the shelves, while Kaya carefully set up their sleeping area. The cabin quickly became a warm and welcoming home, a place where they could rest without fear. As evening approached, Jesse built a small fire outside. The three of them sat around it, sharing a simple meal and enjoying the quiet beauty of the plains. Kaya spoke softly, telling Jesse about the stories her mother had shared when she was young, tales of bravery, kindness, and survival. Lilu listened intently, her wide eyes filled with wonder. You know, Jesse said after a pause, you girls remind me that even in hard times, hope can grow. You've been through so much, and yet here you are, learning, growing, and smiling. That takes real courage. Kaya's eyes glistened. We had no choice but to be brave, she said. But having you here, it has given us a chance to dream again. The night fell gently, and the stars shone brightly overhead. The air was crisp and calm, and for the first time in many months, Kaya and Lilu felt truly safe. Jesse stood nearby, keeping watch, but also allowing them to feel the peace that had finally arrived. Over the next few weeks, life on the ranch settled into a comfortable rhythm. Jesse continued to teach Kaya and Lilu about ranch work, survival, and the ways of the land. Kaya learned quickly, mastering tasks like tending to the animals, repairing fences, and even learning to ride a horse. Lilu, though smaller and younger, became skilled in simple chores, carrying water, gathering firewood, and helping with the garden. More importantly, They learned the value of trust, patience, and teamwork. They laughed together, faced small challenges, and celebrated each success. The bond between them grew stronger, quiet family forming under the open sky. One afternoon, while Kaya and Jesse repaired part of the fence, Lilu ran toward them, holding a small, folded piece of paper. "Look what I found," she exclaimed. It was a drawing she had made, 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. Standing in front of a small cabin, Kaya smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "It's beautiful, Lilu, just like us," she said softly. She looked at Jesse, who nodded with quiet pride. "Yes," he said. "This is the start of something good, something worth protecting." Word of Jesse's kindness slowly spread through the nearby town. People began to notice the small improvements on the ranch, the tidy barn, and the newly built cabin. Some neighbors came by, offering help or simply stopping to chat. Jesse never spoke much about Kaya and Lilu's past, but the story of their courage and survival became known in whispers, inspiring others in small ways. One morning, as Jesse, Kaya, and Lilu sat near the barn, a gentle knock came at the cabin door. A woman from the nearby town stepped inside, carrying a basket of fresh bread and fruits. "I heard about your family," she said warmly. "I wanted to bring some food and welcome you properly." Kaya and Lilu smiled, accepting the gift. It was a small gesture, but it reminded them that kindness existed in the world, and that they were not alone anymore. Jesse nodded, appreciating the neighborly spirit. "Thank you," he said simply. "It means a lot." Months passed and the ranch thrived. The animals were healthy, the garden grew abundantly, and the cabin became a home filled with laughter and warmth. Kaya and Lilu grew more confident every day, learning not only survival skills, but also the value of hope, trust, and family. One evening, as the sun set over the plains, Jesse stood outside the barn, watching Kaya and Lilu play near the cabin. Lilu's laughter rang through the air, while Kaya taught her small lessons about caring for the animals. Jesse felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had rescued 2 lives, yes, but in return, they had changed his life as well. He realized that family was not always defined by blood, but by trust, care, and shared courage. He had found a new purpose, a reason to rise each day and protect the people he had come to love. Kaya and Lilu had found safety, guidance, and a home where they could grow, dream, and flourish. As night fell, the 3 of them sat together under the stars. Lilu leaned against Kaya, and Kaya rested against Jesse, their small hands entwined. The fire flickered gently, casting a warm glow over their faces. Silence filled the air, but it was a comforting silence, filled with peace and gratitude. "Do you think we'll always be safe?" Lilu asked quietly. Jessie smiled, brushing her hair gently. "We'll always do our best," he said. "Life may bring challenges, but together we can face anything." Kaya nodded, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Together," she repeated. She looked at Jesse, then at Lilu. "We're a family now, and families take care of each other." The wind whispered through the trees, the stars twinkled brightly above, and the plains stretched endlessly around them. Life was not perfect, and the future held unknown challenges. But in that moment, they had everything they needed: safety, love, hope, and each other. And for the first time in a long time, Kaya and Lilu could truly believe in a future full of possibility. Guided by the steady hand and kind heart of Jesse Thompson, the ranch, the barn, and the cabin were more than just buildings. They were symbols of survival, trust, and the extraordinary power of kindness. The fire crackled softly. The night grew quiet, and a new chapter in their lives had begun, one filled with hope, resilience, and the enduring strength of family.